Hey Emma,
Yeah, Madelyn.
what do you call it when one number doesn't go into another number?
789.
No, Emma, it's indivisible. Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm not used to being on the other side of that.
Why'd you just give me a math question? Here's some math trivia to start off our episode.
I've been teaching a lot of math lately.
Just send you back to high school math for one sec.
If the digits add up to 9, it's divisible by 9.
Wow! Thanks, Madelyn.
You're welcome.
And that's your weekly Madelyn's Math corner.
Yeah, you remember Off Topic Corner? It's become Madelyn's a Math Corner while you weren't looking. Should have been paying attention. Anyway, my name is Matthew Madelyn.
My name's not Matthew Emma.
And this week, we're going to be talking about Valkyrie Profile and Valkyrie Profile 4 Indivisible.
Yes, Emma made a fatal error picking these games because she totally forgot this trivia that she already knew, in that Indivisible is very strongly inspired by Valkyrie Profile.
That's what inspired my definition-based joke this week. I was like, the two games are basically the same, so I might as well just say what indivisible means and make that the joke.
I'm sure that was the thought process that
It
you
is
actually
weird that we
had.
picked two learn to count games.
Why is Valkyrie Profile learn to count?
It's not, it was just a joke, because one is called Indivisible.
Oh, I see.
And I'm talking about math.
Yeah.
So, listeners, buckle in while we say the same thing twice in a row.
First, Valkyrie Profile.
So, a Valkyrie Profile, it's an RPG from Tri-Ace, published by Enix, pre-Square, for PlayStation. Released in December 1999 in Japan, and August 2000 in the West. And in this game, you play as the Valkyrie Lenneth, as she journeys around Midgard, gathering the souls of dead heroes, which are called...
Einhar, right?
Is that how you say it?
Einhar. Einhar. I don't know, what does Wikipedia say?
Einherjar.
Einherjar.
But that cannot be it. Like, I'm sure the J turns into something else.
Einherjar.
We're gonna call them sparkly dead hero souls.
Sure, yeah. That's
anyway,
what it translates to. No, it's not.
That's the direct translation from the Norse. And you gather these, valiant dead folk, and you're gonna either send them up to Valhalla to fight in the Ragnarok War with Odin and Freya, or you're gonna keep them by your side to be your army and do some more training.
Yes. In order to get through the game, you do at some point at least have to send some of your sparkly dead hero souls up to fight in Ragnarok. Just hopefully ones that can survive up there.
Yes, so the game is split up into 8 chapters, each of which, depending on your difficulty level, is then divided into 16 to 24, I can't remember what they're called.
Periods, I think.
Periods, thank you. That you use up by, doing certain actions. So you might be zooming around the world map and see some undead folk that you want to fight. Or zooming around the world map and see a town that you want to check out because you think there's going to be a dead, sparkly dude there.
Yeah.
This is getting further away from the meaning of that every time I say it. But at the end of each chapter, Freya kind of calls you in for a, hey, honey, here's how the war's going, kind of weekly phone call. And they have a demand for a certain, level of hero or a certain skill of hero that they want you to send up. And ideally, you'll send someone who will survive.
Yeah. And you have to do this every once in a while because when you don't do it, you have like an evaluation score, I think, from your from your estranged mother and father or whatever, your adopted godparents,
your god dad.
Yeah. They give you an evaluation score, and when you do something they like, it goes up, and when you do something they don't like, it goes down. And if it goes down to 0, you get the bad ending. Yes, ending C, where Freya comes and beats you up.
Is that what happens?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think I actually read about ending C, but
she comes down and she beats you up. I'm pretty sure. I don't really know how it ends, but I saw that like she comes down and it's basically like an almost impossible boss fight unless you're cheating.
Well, Emma knows a lot about almost impossible.
It ends the same
fights.
whether you beat her or not.
Dang.
A la like the Leon fight in Kingdom Hearts 1.
The Leon fight is my prime example for that at all times. BS.
So you try to train them up so that they live in Ragnarok.
But of course you only have a limited capability of doing that because you only have so many periods that you can spend within each chapter, so you gotta use them wisely if you're gonna train your Sparkle Bros to survive up in the God War.
And there's 21 Einherrs. This whole episode is just us trying to learn how to do that name. There's 21 that you can recruit, some of which you have to be on normal or hard difficulty. I assume because certain things only happen on those difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. It's an example of a difficulty scaling that I actually don't like. I don't like difficulty scaling that's like you have to play it on hard to get all the content, you know?
To be fair, this is a game that is trying to reward multiple playthroughs, I think.
True.
So, with the idea probably being that you build your way up to hard.
Yeah. Yes, I was looking at a guide for, like, how do I get ending A?
The best ending, in case you were wondering.
In Valkyrie Profile, like, if you just follow the standards of the game, you get ending B, sort of the standard ending. But then if you do a whole bunch of special stuff, you get ending A, which is the best ending. And there was, like, a list of, like these were, like, suggestions, right? Because you have an actual secondary score that's not your evaluation score that goes up and down depending on certain actions you take. So they, like, laid out, like, things to do in each chapter so that your score is high enough to trigger ending A. And it was, like, a list of, like, 25 things that you need to do. Yeah, it's like that's some strategy guide nonsense right there.
The strategy guide era. Why are you like this?
Was 2006 still strategy guide era? Because it also came out. They re-released it in 2006 on PSP. And I'm just wondering, like, that seems like the awkward era in which the internet resources were not necessarily so robust, but also strategy guides were dying out. So
I would say it still falls into strategy guide territory because they also in 2006 released a sequel for the PS2, which, as we talked about last week on the side quest, really the PS3 and the Xbox 360 generation are where we see that advent of truly accessible high-speed internet.
True.
So I would say strategy guides probably still reigned in 2006, but that's probably a good side quest topic at some point to talk about.
The history of strategy guides.
I'd be into it. I'll put it in my back pocket for the next time I can't think of a topic.
Sure, you hold on to it. So, you'll be hearing this twice, but a lot of moving around in Valkyrie Profile, first of all, is not just like wandering through a map like in most JRPGs, but actually is a bit more platformy. In that you have to actually like move around. She jumps and hits things and stuff like that instead of just sort of wandering on a world map.
Yep.
And also, once you're in battle, you have this, for the time, unique battle system where every character is assigned to a face button, basically. They wouldn't have had face buttons on... no, it was on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what a face button is, but...
I don't... Shape buttons?
Sure, yes.
And you press the corresponding button to have that character attack, basically. Instead of having, like, a traditional, like, turn-based thing where they have tons of options.
Yes. So in the case of Valkyrie Profile, it's sort of a half turn-based, half real-time kind of deal. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about something, again, similar to this with Indivisible, but it doesn't seem quite the same to me based on my experience with Indivisible. It seems like in Valkyrie Profile, like, you do sort of trade off turns with the enemy, but within your turn, you can have everyone attack. And the order you have them attack and the way you have them attack can chain combos that will do more or less damage.
Right.
And also that charges, like, your super magic meter, basically, where you can use your Purify Weird Soul attack, which is such a bizarre name for it, but here we are.
It's really called Purify Weird Soul. We're looking at the Wikipedia article right now.
Either someone on Wikipedia is trolling me hard, which is a possibility. Or that's
it must just be like a
called.
weird translation of whatever weird is translating.
Probably, yeah.
You'd think.
I sure hope so.
Or maybe it just means weird. I don't know. Maybe there's just some weird souls.
Just a little judgy, that's all.
Super weird souls.
Weird. But yeah, so definitely a very unique combat system for the time. It's not going to feel unique by the end of the episode, but at the time, and Valkyrie Profile is still sort of loved for this, it was like a real breath of fresh air to the genre.
It's hip, new, different.
Exactly. And it sold well and got a lot of critical praise as a result.
Yeah.
Sold 700,000 copies. Lot of, like I said, great reviews. Did certainly suffer from the fact that it was released sort of at the end of the PlayStation generation, and also in this time of Final Fantasy really being a juggernaut in the genre. Even though this is not a game that is very much like Final Fantasy, really in most meaningful ways, certainly kind of suffered under that shadow of our... I don't know what they would be called in Norse mythology. I was going to be like a giant or a cyclops. Those are both Greek.
What are they called in Norse mythology? I don't know.
In the
they
shadow
definitely have names.
Of Odin. That's not what it is.
Sure. The shadow of what?
Odin.
What are you going for here?
Like the god.
Yeah, I know the god Odin.
He's big, 'cause he's a god.
Is he?
Presumably he could be if he wanted to be.
I guess that's fair.
Anyway, are we ready for Madelyn's lore crevice?
Sure.
The corner is the math corner this week, so I have to relegate it to like just a crack in the floor.
We only have one corner in this podcast.
Bizarrely, yeah. We just built kind of two walls out there and then lost focus.
Yeah. That feels real.
So in the lore corner, hey, you're the Valkyrie Lenneth, but because you're a Valkyrie, like, you're dead, right? But you don't really remember that much of your human life. But we sort of find out along the way that, yeah, you did have a human life where you were the silver-haired girl Platina, and you were in love with...
Lucian.
Right? I knew it started with an L. But you two found out as teenagers that your parents were going to sell you into slavery, and you tried to run away, but then you like breathed poison flowers or something.
Yeah, like weeping lilies, I think they're called.
Sure. Come on,
they
Emma.
just sort of wander into the weeping lily field. I watched the opening to it, which like a strong 1999 English dub. let's say. Lenneth's voice sounded better, but the two young children, solid 1990s dub.
Sure.
That's all I'll say about it. But yeah, they just kind of like wander into like a field of weeping lilies, and for some reason, like Platina's the only one that dies. I guess Lucian just like doesn't breathe it in, or maybe they only work on girls, or Platina kind of wants to die anyway, so I guess that could be part of it.
Like, she's probably already pretty sad from being almost sold into slavery, so not her strongest.
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually, if you get the good ending, you'll find out a lot more about sort of your history as a human. So in this good ending, I think some of this may be part of the actual game, and some of it may just be part of the good ending. It was a little unclear to me. But assuming you're following your strategy guide diligently because you want to hang out in the lore creaky, cracky floorboard with me or whatever, you meet Lucian in one of the towns that you go to that you're visiting as a Valkyrie looking for good old souls. And he dies in some kind of violent way, I think. And you make him an Sparkle Man, where he's like still talking about how he loves Platina. And you like don't really remember who he is, but you like him. And he gets sent up to Valhalla eventually. And kind of realizes that you're Platina and tries to contact you, and ultimately like sends you an earring that helps you realize that you're Platina. And Odin gets pissed and tries to have you destroyed, and you're like two companions that they rejected for being divine soldiers have to save you. But then like you start to hate the gods, right? And the way they treat humanity. So in this ending, in like the normal ending that you get if you didn't buy a strategy guide, like you end up sort of prevailing in this god war against Loki, and then Freya and Odin put you back to sleep. And that's the end.
Lame.
But in the good ending, Loki kills Odin, kills all of your companions, wipes out Asgard and Midgard. That's the heaven and earth. If you aren't versed in your Norse mythology, if you haven't played God of War or Age of Mythology lately, just helping you out. However, somehow, in the process of, like, your companions fusing your soul back together earlier when they had to crystallize you, and let's not talk about crystallizing souls, okay? Because we can't go there on this show. But, like, you gained more powers, including, apparently, the power of creation. That's right, you are now the creator god. So you kill Loki, you revive everyone. Now everyone is your sparkle soul companion.
How beautiful.
It is. Also very dark. Everyone was dead for a while there.
Yeah.
And like dead.
Is it dark though? Like, I suppose it's dark in the moment, but then it becomes hopeful, doesn't it, when you prevail? It's not like it ends after they die.
I guess, but they were all dead for a while.
You know what? Endgame comes after Infinity War. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is that normally in this mythology, they would have at least gone to some other, like, world place. But it seems like Loki just, snapped him out of existence here.
Norse mythology is dark. I mean, most mythology is, but Norse mythology in particular is kind of, grim.
That's true. It is. I mean, it's dope that you get to become the creator god at the end. But also, that's a lot of responsibility for a 14-year-old Valkyrie.
To be fair, she's more than 14 then.
I guess. I don't really know how your emotional development works once you're dead.
Well, you get a deeper, cooler sounding voice. So.
That's true. Trading up.
And better hair. So I think that's the hallmarks of a grown-up.
The ultimate glow-up. There. 14-year-old flower-dead girl to Valkyrie with better haircut. New voice.
That's what it means to be grown-up. You have a different voice and a better haircut.
It's true.
There's nothing else to it.
I did realize that I could have played this game too because they ported the PSP port to iOS just a couple of years ago in 2018. But it actually would have cost me more to buy this game that, if I'm being generous, is from 2006. Like, if I'm being generous, that I'm doing the date that the port came out, right? Yeah. That now includes in-app purchases. Like, it would have cost me more money to buy that game than it cost me to buy my used copy of Indivisible.
Yeah.
Even not regarding my GameStop Pro coupon that I had. Still would have cost me more, which is absurd.
Yeah, old games are weird like that. Some old games, at least.
I just have a hard time ever wanting to spend more than $10 on anything that lives on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
honestly true. More than $5 on anything that lives on my phone.
It's not part of Apple Arcade.
I didn't look into Apple Arcade, but it doesn't feel like the vibe.
Yeah, I don't think so either, unfortunately. Some of the PSP games have ended up on PlayStation 3, but I guess not this one.
And this one feels like a weird one. I don't know how you would play this on a phone. The whole mechanic of it is that it's mapped to the buttons on a PlayStation.
Well, you tap on them, probably.
My phone is like 2 inches wide.
So you can't tap a finger?
I don't know. It just feels like it's already going to be a tiny screen and I'm going to have to reserve like a quarter of it. Oh, I tap the character.
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know what you thought it was saying.
I was thinking I was going to have like buttons on the side taking up like a third of my screen. No, I meant
you just tap the character that you want to go.
I guess.
You silly, silly Madelyn.
I know. It just doesn't feel like a natural fit for iOS. That's all I'm saying.
A lot of old JRPGs have ended up on iOS. Like there's some Final Fantasies on mobile also.
I guess it's because they're good to play very split up.
I don't know.
Like, you can just stop in the middle of a battle, and that's okay. It's sort of turn-based. I mean, this is a little bit different, but I'm thinking of, like, a really turn-based RPG. You could even kind of stop in the middle of the battle, and that would be okay. You could.
I don't know what would happen if, I don't think it would just, save there, though. I don't think their saving's any different, so you'd have to leave it running on your phone, which means that your battery would go down in about 2 hours.
Okay, but that's fine.
What do you mean that's fine?
I play it on the train to work. I don't take the train to work, but let's hypothetical situation. I'm not playing these games. I play it on the train to work. I have a meeting. I plug in my phone.
What if your phone crashes during the day?
Then I'll be upset, but I better hope that doesn't happen.
Unlike something like the Switch or any sort of portable system, which I know I can just close and things will still be running in the background. I don't trust my phone to do that because I still have to use my phone during the day. You know?
Really more what I was saying, and I just took it to level 10 here, is there's probably a lot of opportunities to save and a lot of kind of menu management stuff that would feel fine on the phone. Also, because these games are old, the graphics don't need to be updated.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, when Final Fantasy was putting their Switch ports out, it was just the mobile ports, which a lot of people were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty much uglier versions of the older games. But yeah, you'd be surprised how many games you can find on a phone. Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition.
I don't think that's the move.
That's a real game, Alan.
I didn't say it was real. It wasn't real. I just don't think it's the move.
You just think they should walk that back real quick?
I do. They should reconsider.
I just find that hilarious. But yeah.
I do want to point out that the IGN review for this game genuinely starts with a quote from the Book of Revelation.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of religiousness to it.
It does.
Even with Valkyries and stuff, there was a lot of Christianity in the Norse lands as well.
I know. He goes on to talk about how all religions have this idea of what happens after death and all that stuff. But it was just Come on. You're starting your video game review with a quote from the Book of Revelation?
Hey,
Dude,
he's taking his job seriously.
pull it back. No, you're not.
Was it the 2006 one or the 1999 one?
The 2001.
The 2000 one?
I mean, IGN was not reviewing it in Japan.
Okay. You could have known what I meant and been clearer about it.
I refuse to do that.
You know what? It was 20 years ago and he was taking his video game review seriously enough to include a quote from the Book of Revelations, and I think that's a sign of dedication.
I disagree. I think it's
that's
lazy.
Beautiful. I think that's a sign of evolving games journalism in the new millennia.
Yes, that we've decided that Bible quotes at the start of our reviews maybe aren't, to quote me from 2 minutes ago, the move.
I'm sure there's some games where you might consider putting some Bible quotes in.
Sure, like have you seen that Jesus one?
Yes, the Jesus one, but I meant other games too.
I'm excited for that game.
You can tell us all about it on one of the 6 weeks of gaming episodes.
I'm so excited. It's like right in line with all the research I did in college. I'll have to write my professor.
Yeah. You'll have to. Send her your gameplay.
Genuinely, I will.
Am I doing a good job being Jesus?
Skype me into your lecture and let me talk about this.
Anything more about Valkyrie Profile? It's very pretty. I'm always surprised when I go back to old JRPGs, especially, like, how pretty they are. Or even, like, when we were talking about, like, Longest Journey. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, they're old looking, but, like, there's some cool scenery and staging to them that is on the level with modern games, I think. It just always surprises me. That's all.
People really love Valkyrie Profile, even today. It does have a couple of prequels, but has more or less been abandoned for 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. Feels like the kind of thing that somebody should buy and bring back, because I feel like it has enough nostalgia market that it'd be a good...
I mean, Square Enix is sitting on so many licenses like this, though, right?
Well, they have to make every possible iteration of Kingdom Hearts, so who can blame them? There are like 5 teams working on that IP, so they don't have time for Valkyrie Profile.
They only published it, though. Would they own the rights as the publisher if the developer's not around anymore? I guess I don't really know.
It feels like one of those things that is maybe potentially is unclear, but I feel probably yes.
But even still, this would be a series that probably they would bring another development team on,
yeah.
Maybe.
A little funky to think of a Japanese studio working on a game about Norse mythology.
Why?
I don't know. It's just always it's always interesting to me when a game company makes a game that is about a culture that is really not their culture. I mean, Norse mythology is like that inaccessible, but
almost every like Japanese horror game is set in like small town in Maine or whatever. So
they've all read too much Stephen King. Like, that's clear there. I understand that influence. But, like, who was sitting around in Tokyo and, like, you know what game I'll make? Norse gods.
They can like Norse gods, too.
You're right. I know that. It's not just this particular one. We've like we said, we've talked about all these horror games that are Japanese that take place in America. We talked about in our, like, second episode about how every game takes place in ancient Greece.
Yeah.
It always interests me when people are trying to make something about a culture that isn't theirs in a way that isn't like a racist way, because when it's a racist way, it's not interesting. It's just like, oh,
racist.
Yeah. But when it's just something that's like outside of the culture, it's like, oh, interesting. Like, I wonder why you got this idea and why this was the thing that the studio latched on to and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of different cultural takes on similar games, Indivisible
is our next game. Tell us about it, Madelyn. You're the expert now.
All right, so you can rewind to the portion where we describe the gameplay of Valkyrie Profile.
It's a little different.
And you can listen to that, and you'll have it enough that you could talk about it in conversation. You could make a conversation about it, and people would be like, huh, they haven't played the game, but they know about it, and that would be good enough. Anyway, Indivisible came out in October?
Yep.
Of last year, so October 2019. It's from... Oh boy, my stuff's out of order this time.
Lab Zero Games.
Thank you, and published by 505 Games. They originally announced it in 2015 at a panel at Anime Expo where they were talking about their previous game, and they launched a Kickstarter where they had to raise $1.5 million, and then 505 would put up the rest to fund the game, which is honestly a pretty decent way to structure your Kickstarter, I think. I mean, that's still a huge amount of money to raise, and it seems like they still sort of barely made it.
Yeah.
But to have it already partnered with a studio feels like both gross on the part of the studio a little bit, but also, from your side, definitely the savvier way to handle things.
Yeah. I mean, from the publisher's point of view, it's also a measure of interest, right?
Definitely.
If that many people are interested, then it's worth perhaps putting up $1.5 million on it.
No, I agree. I understand the reasoning behind it. It just also feels a little bit like, do our job for us.
Sure.
Which is how things are these days, of course. But still, a little part of me is like, oh, okay. The same way I feel every time I look at any of, like, summer theater festivals where they're like, you'll pay for it all yourself, and we'll sort of give you the space. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you said Kickstart, but it was actually an Indiegogo.
You're right. Forgive me. I used Kickstarter in the generic, which is not appropriate.
And when you mean barely made it, it means that they didn't make it, but had been above the Indiegogo threshold for getting the money, but then they extended it for another around a month and ended up making the money that they wanted to make.
And then some, it seems like.
Yeah.
I was looking through it. It seemed like they didn't quite hit the amount of money that they had wanted to hit their stretch goal of it being fully voice acted. But, like, it is fully voice acted. So I guess they decided to do it anyway. Maybe
they managed to convince 505 to give them just a little bit more money for voice acting.
They were less than $50,000 short.
Only $50,000.
It might I can't remember if it was 5,000 or 50,000. I can't remember the order of magnitude of this. But they were close relative to the large amount of money that they raised. So it made sense. They did not get to the stretch goal where they were like going to add multiple endings and a super secret bonus dungeon or something. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe they're planning that anyway.
I think there is sort of like a secret sub-story boss.
Then maybe they did do it.
But I don't think there's not multiple endings or anything.
Yet. They are still adding more characters. I did see that, both as kind of event crossover characters and just a couple of characters that they wanted to put in the game but didn't have time to finish.
Yeah. More characters.
Yes, in a game that definitely needs more characters, they are adding more characters.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing that carries over from, like, Valkyrie Profile, in that they had, like, 21 recruitable characters, and Indivisible has about that many as well.
So Indivisible is the game that I chose to play this week because they had a sale on the used copies at GameStop, and I had my monthly $5 coupon, so I got it for $10, which... Man, remember last week we were talking about how Nintendo doesn't ever discount their games?
Yeah.
They lost a sale. This is a game that I think it would be is a great Switch title, and that I would have gotten for the Switch had the prices been comparable, but the Switch version was $35.
It's not out yet, is it?
Maybe it was a pre-order then, but I thought that it was.
It at least came out after the PlayStation 4 version, so it's newer than the PlayStation 4 version.
Yes, but by what? Like a month?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to when it came out on Switch. I still didn't think it was out on Switch.
Oh, it's not. It's pre-order.
There you go. So it's
well,
a good
then
you
I
didn't
couldn't
buy
have got
on
it on Switch anyway. But it was not $35. It's $40 on Switch when I could get it for $15 used, and for me $10 on PlayStation.
Yeah. You're very savvy shopper, Madeline.
Nintendo lost my sale. Not that they would have, like, I would have bought it for the episode anyway, so they had already lost my. Anyway, let's move on for my consumer habits. So yes, this is the game I played. I've played like 2 or 3 hours of it, I think, so far. I'm enjoying it. It's a game that I will continue to play after the episode, which is actually for all of the games this year, I think, has been the case. Because I've continued playing Yakuza, right, which was not technically Judgment, but is almost Judgment. And I've played a little bit of Apex Legends because I've hooked Clickbait Boyfriend on it, apparently, which is something I'm still coming to terms with. But this one I'm really enjoying. It's a lot of fun. As I was describing to you via text the other day, it's just me bopping around with all my JRPG buddies from other games in my brain.
Yeah.
We've got young Nordy Lawrence / Haida, if you're an Agretzko fan. We've got Morgana. We've got Yusuke. I just added Haru Marianne to my party. My dad is Shido, even though he's dead now. But I didn't get to destroy his inner evil god this time, so...
It's good,
Rats.
I guess. But yes, in Indivisible, you go around collecting party members because Ajna just has like a mysterious person sucking up power that she sort of activates unintentionally whenever
it's because she's really
someone.
high in itty.
Yeah.
What itty is, I don't really know because
I assume it's like a personal energy type
I'm
thing.
less familiar. So Indivisible, so I was talking about kind of cultural inspiration. So Indivisible is sort of like what would happen if you took Valkyrie Profile and you said, instead of this being about Norse mythology, I'm gonna have it be inspired by Southeast Asian mythology.
Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, I am a little bit less familiar with than I am with Norse mythology. To be honest, probably because I have played games that are about Norse mythology, and I have not played games that are about Southeast Asian mythology before.
Yeah.
I know a little bit from history class. That's about it.
I was trying to remember those books I read when I was a teenager that was like the gods were like teenagers and they were like fighting for which god like got to like rule over all the other gods. Like they had like submitted one of their gods as like a human and then they have to fight each other. But I couldn't remember what it was called. But that's like one of them was Kali. Whatever.
I haven't read the books. So.
Whatever the destruction goddess is in Hindi, I think.
Yep.
Hindu religion. So that's my familiarity with it. Also, we read that book in 9th grade English that I also can't remember.
The Ramayana?
Yes, the Ramayana.
Ramayana?
Whatever it's called. I'm sorry. This is just the Talk This Can't Pronounce Foreign Words episode.
It's just the Talk This probably should have looked at the International Phonetic Alphabet pronunciation of all these words. I was not expecting to have to discuss the Ramayana, to be fair. That would not have made the research list, even had I been prepared with it.
And we talked about some of the gods in relation to that.
Vishnu,
in
Shiva.
In English, yes. Those guys.
Well, dope. Anyway, even though I've been playing this on my small television in the past couple of days, I also played it, and I wasn't sure about this for a while, but then as I played more, I was like, no, I definitely did. I also played a demo of this last year at PAX East.
Yeah, you did.
Well, Emma played Bloodborne.
Bloodstained.
Not Bloodborne, yikes.
Not Bloodborne. It'd be weird if there was a demo for Bloodborne at 2019 PAX East.
I'm just gonna keep on moving. Just not even gonna acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I remember it being fun at PAX. It didn't make a huge impression on me, but I remember it being fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to have a similar experience at PAX this year where I play a demo that I don't really remember and then come upon the game a year later and enjoy it.
So I've played 98% of the way through this game.
Right.
I really enjoyed the first 10 to 15 hours. Didn't enjoy the next 5 or so hours as much. And I really hate the final boss. I just despise it. I tried it for 45 minutes and ended up giving up because it was 11:15 at night. And I just did not have the motivation to go through the first phase again. So it's now abandoned. I watched it on YouTube. It was perfectly fine.
That's pretty brutal.
It's just that I know... Okay, here's a tip for you. They teach you blocking at the beginning. Blocking is not important very much throughout at least perfect blocking isn't important throughout the rest of the game. Perfect blocking is very important for the final boss.
I do not feel like I understand how the blocking works.
You have to block right as they're going to attack you.
I don't ever do that.
Yeah, well, you better get used to it, because otherwise you won't be able to beat the final boss.
I'm still trying to get used to getting my axe to go into walls correctly.
Yeah, so my strategy, starting when I started getting these types of characters, was basically I had Ajna and Dar on DPS or whatever. I had one character as a healer and I had one character setting traps. And because there were always traps down, it was very rarely that an enemy would ever actually make it to hit me. So I just didn't practice blocking very much.
See, I don't have a trap character yet.
Yeah. You get 2 of them. So.
When do I get the dog?
At the halfway point, I think.
So I'll have to play at least that far. Got it.
Yeah. The dog's very powerful.
Does not surprise me even a little. Radiates powerful energy.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I feel like I didn't give much of a summary of the base idea of the game. You've probably picked it up by now, listener, but in case you haven't, you play as Ajna, a Southeast Asian coded girl, teenager, growing up in a small village, training with your dad to be a warrior, missing your mom. What happened to her? We don't know. But she had an axe. And then your town is attacked by a nasty dude, and your dad dies right after you had a little fight. But he tells you he loves you before he dies. And then you start to accidentally suck people into your inner realm.
Starting with your dad's murderer. As you do.
Look, I think it's appropriate that young Nordy is the first one.
That's where you got the idea from.
Probably. So yeah, basically everyone you meet, mostly willingly, goes to live in your brain.
Sometimes not willingly, but then they seem pretty cool with it anyway.
Dar has been the only one that I've encountered, I think, so far, who has seemed even a little bit perturbed.
I mean, when you suck, what's the tiger lady's name? Rajmi?
Yeah.
She's like, what's going on for a second?
But then she's fine. And
then she's
like,
fine. Yeah. That's the most reaction you get of anyone except Dar. Is whoa, this is weird. Okay, I guess I live here now. Which is one, I guess, because it would get tiresome if you had 20 characters freaking out about whatever was happening. But it also feels a little bit what's wrong with the people of this world?
They're just a little bit more in touch with magic and they believe in it more, and so they're like, okay, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, the magic part, but it's a little inconvenient, wouldn't you think?
I guess so. You're gonna run around doing cool stuff.
I guess so. What if you got things to do, people to see?
They did not. Well, we do it. I gathered the lilies for ginseng and honey. I'm getting the gems for the, stat boosters in my brain. I seem to mostly be doing them a favor.
Yeah.
Yusuke wasn't as excited about it. He was a little worried we're going to this holy land, but he's chill now.
Yeah. what's the other? The other part of this outside of the battles, which I guess we haven't talked about the battles, but it is similar to Valkyrie Profile.
Literally, they
have your characters have individual turns and like cooldowns basically, so it's a little bit more similar to standard turn-based like that.
I'm still working out the strategy.
Yeah, but then they have, or actually, more accurately, they charge up like an amount of attacks. So like they'll have an amount hovering above their head that you can make them attack, and then they have up, down, and sideways attacks.
And super weird soul.
Yeah.
Attacks. That's not what they're called. They use the ID meter, but it's the same concept.
Yes. And then outside of that is platforming segments, which is easily the worst part of the game for me.
I've found it fun so far, except that I'm just really bad at the... So one of the things that you can do is, like, as you jump, you can use your axe to stick into the wall and then jump up. And I'm just really bad at the timing of it.
I think that there are at least some places that you cannot get with your axe that they do not put far enough away from you to really indicate that. At least that's a problem I had, is that I would spend like 3 minutes trying to get up somewhere because I was convinced I could do it. But you need to get like the jumpier thing later.
See, you're giving me too much credit, because that is not, I don't think that's my problem so far. My problem is just that I'm bad at the axe.
I mean, there's that too. The controls for the axe are kind of to me. But I really hate when they take you out of the very fun combat system during bosses to make you do like the kind of clunky platforming during the bosses, and then you die and you have to start over again. That's the other complaint I have about it. But a lot of it is mostly pretty delightful.
And you get a lot of kind of Tales-esque banter going on during it, which is fun. And, fun characters. Like I said, it's really, for me, just like a who's who of characters that I've enjoyed hanging out with in the past. So that works out well.
It's all very good 2D animation as well.
Yeah, hand-drawn.
So, yep. The intro sequence and all the actual like anime scenes are done by Studio Trigger, which is a studio in Japan that did stuff like Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann, and Promare was their movie this past year. Which is a very big studio that has lately been doing a lot of intros for little indie games for whatever reason. So
it's fun stuff.
Yeah. Do we want to do a mashup?
So the problem is, again, as Emma said at the beginning of the episode, and to me via text this morning, she was like, I really should have redrawn this.
Yeah, like it'd be one thing if I was finding this out now, but like I looked up Valkyrie Profile and read about it, and I was like, oh, I knew this. Like, I knew this from before. I should have remembered this.
And the thing is, I already saw Indivisible described as a Talk This-esque mashup of Valkyrie Profile and Super Metroid. Mm-hmm. So it's like, Indivisible is already a game. Not to give us this amount of credit, because most of our mashups are pretty bad, but Indivisible is already a game that theoretically someone with more talent for this than us could come up with if they were hosting our show.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a fusion of Southeast Asian and Norse mythology.
As you do.
Look, we gotta go bold here, okay? We gotta go bold with the differences. So Odin and Freya have decided, now that they've defeated Loki, because we discovered that actually ending B was the canon ending. You aren't actually the creator god. Nice try. Have decided that like they're not happy just taking over Asgard and Midgard, but they have to take over whatever the land is called in Indivisible as well. The country has a name, but I have not played it enough to internalize it yet.
I don't remember what the name of the country is either. So it's okay.
So they're coming to try to destroy the town, and by now Ajna has like 40 people in her brain.
Madeline, you always do this. You always write fan fiction. We're making a new game.
I'm making Valkyrie Profile 5 Divide Me.
You know what? That's a fun title, at least. I'll give you that.
So Ajna's got her brain army, and her brain army has to fight against the Sparkle Boys.
But you're asleep, so... If Gandig B is canon, then you're asleep, so there's no Sparkle Boys.
They've woken you up to fight Ajna.
Oh, well, that was a short nap. That doesn't seem fair.
Maybe it's been a long time. You don't know. They woke you up. You're fighting with your spirit Sparkle Boys. Ajna's fighting with her ragtag group of everyone she met along the road. And it's a Tekken game.
Okay, that was nice. That was called a crossover. Now let's come up with a mashup.
You're so rude. I think that would be pretty good, like a fighting game that is in this style where you actually fight multiplayer.
Sure, it's like Marvel vs. Capcom, but with two franchises that not very many people care about.
And
at least in comparison.
Stepping on the cultural heritage of billions of people.
Yeah, just like Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm just kidding.
Thor's in that one too.
Yeah.
Fine, you do better then.
Okay. You are... We're going with some, just associating words. Okay, you're a dead girl.
Okay. That's a common thread. I agree.
Wandering the land, and you're trying to gain sort of like some ghost friends because, you know, you've been dead and lonely for a really long time, and you don't know how to pass on, and so you're like, well, maybe I should like get out there, do some stuff, make myself better, live this afterlife, you might say.
Sure.
So you sort of venture out of your little ghosty place, and you start finding like other ghosts, and they become a part of like your ghost posse, and like they have things that they want to do, regrets from life, because you don't remember your life. There you go. And you get this posse, and every once in a while one of your ghost posse is like, oh, I want to do this so that I can pass on, and so you can either like do that to help them pass on, or sort of selfishly hoard them to yourself. And the more that you like hoard them, the closer you get to the bad ending, and the more that you help them, the closer you get to the good ending. But actually you have to balance it a little bit, because if you let them all go too soon, you become really lonely and sad and become like a vengeful ghost. But if you balance it right, you can find your way to like the true ending when you like remember who you are and stuff.
That's interesting. Have you contacted Kristen Bell to maybe play the lead in this?
What is this movie?
Have you contacted Michael Schur about maybe executive producing this?
Oh, The Good Place? But you're a ghost. You're not like in the good place. And they don't like help people move on.
I don't want to spoil The Good Place for you.
They don't actively help people move on.
Yeah, I guess they don't. You're right. But
they don't go around every human and be like, what's your regret? For millennia. So.
Okay, can you suck up the other ghosts into your ectoplasm with a vacuum?
Sure.
Excellent. Now it's the Luigi's Mansion. Dead Ouija's Mansion for...
Dead Ouija's Mansion. Luigi's one regret? Never beating up Mario.
No, that's a pretty good one. I'll admit it. It doesn't, use a bizarre culture. Not a bizarre culture. That was not the right thing to say. It doesn't use, a mythological tradition. Mm-hmm. Which, knocking off points for that. If you could figure out a way to incorporate some kind of mythology, that would be cool.
I don't know, what kind of mythology? Not very many mythologies have, ghosts, is the thing. They have just, underworlds or whatever.
You could do, obviously you wouldn't want to do this. You'd need to get some other people to develop this game with you, so it wouldn't be culturally inappropriate. But, you could do, a Dia de los Muertos kind of idea.
Yeah.
That would be neat.
Yeah. That's good. It's a good addition.
Thank you. I tried.
See what happens when you just let your mind flow?
Whatever. I thought my Marvel v. Capcom clone was gonna work pretty well.
It was a good starting point. It got my brain juices flowing.
Thanks. I'm glad to be your brain juicer. Alright, folks. Would you buy Emma's game about your ghost friends and not becoming a vengeful ghost?
Would you buy Madelyn's game about the characters of Valkyrie Profile fighting the characters of Indivisible in a Tekken-style Mortal Kombat one-on-one situation?
I can't decide if I'd want it to be Tekken style or if I'd want it to be like the combat systems of both of them, but it's like player versus player.
The only issue with that is it would get a little bit stale. Right?
Maybe.
It's just like when there's like only a little bit, like I guess you could have like party compositions, but there's only like a limited amount of strategies you can do for that.
There's also only
it's like simultaneously too simple and too complex. You know?
Whatever. Wait when it sells 5 million copies.
Okay.
I'll be the last.
I'm just saying I like the fighting game, just the random fighting game thrown in there better than using the actual combat styles. That's all I was saying.
Fair enough. Well, folks, if you have strong feelings about either of these mashups, or if you want our continued thoughts on Indivisible, or you want to talk about how much you love Valkyrie Profile and how we didn't talk enough about the game, you should follow us on social media and engage with us there. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, and we're on YouTube at Talk This Sisters. You should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read more about the show, see the games that are in the hat that hopefully aren't just identical versions of the same game released 20 years apart. We hope for this week. And also read our blog, where you can catch up on Clickbait Boyfriend, where my boyfriend is really, for real this time, almost done with Kingdom Hearts 3, because we just have the DLC left. And Split Screen, where Emma and I are watching Coffee Prince and My Hero Academia. You should also, most importantly, subscribe to the show. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, both online and in the app, anywhere podcasts can be found. I had to say that in real life the other day. So I was talking about, like, someone was like, where do people download podcasts? And I was like, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn. And it was very odd. I think I scared them a little. Anyway.
Yeah.
I just
scared
popped
me a
into
little.
Podcasting voice. But you should subscribe to us there so you never miss an episode on Sundays at noon, and leave a rating and a review if you're feeling particularly generous. Next week, we'll be talking about some kind of side quest thing of Emma's choice. Mm-hmm. Any ideas floating around in there yet?
No ideas yet, but we'll see. We'll come
I'll
up
have to say something dumb to get your juices flowing, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking
I didn't
about...
like that.
I know, I didn't either. We'll be talking about something that Emma picks sometime, and it's guaranteed to be something that's a little bit too big to talk about in a 60-minute podcast, but we'll do our best anyway. And in 2 weeks, Emma, what will we be talking about?
We shall be talking about Street Fighter.
Nice.
And Knights and Bikes.
Knights and Bikes?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, folks. Get ready for some biking on the streets on our next main edition of Talk This. Thanks for tuning in with us today. Do you want me to sign off? Do you want to
Sure,
sign
you
off?
do it. I always come up with something terrible.
That's the point. Alright, listeners. I hope that this week you're able to purge your weird soul.